Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you happen to be right now. Welcome to my session on Govern Power BI and the rest of your data estate with Azure Purview. In my day job, I am the Chief Executive for Data Strategy at BitQ. We are headquartered in Brisbane, Australia, but we do operate internationally. I'm a Microsoft MVP and have been in the data insight space for over 20 years. I'm also the founder and a co-organizer for the Queensland Power BI user group. Let's take a look at the topics that we will cover in this session. We'll start off with exploring why we need a data catalog. Then I'll introduce you to Azure Purview. With limited time, I will introduce you to the main concepts and features of Purview without covering every feature. We'll have a short demo of the product. And finally, I will summarize how Purview improves your Power BI governance. Before we get into it, just a quick disclaimer. As these sessions are recorded, I had to record my session almost 2 months before the event. So, some things may have changed by now, and new features may be present. As the main aim of the session is to introduce you to Purview, this should not matter. If you have questions, I will be live on the chat and Q&A during the session. Please feel free to ask questions. Why do we need a data catalog? Typically, organizations are not able to centrally identify all the different datasets, reports, and other data products that exist in their organization. A data catalog is exactly that, a central repository for all data assets. A data catalog allows data stewards to curate the data assets. This could include descriptions at a dataset or even field level, as well as assigning glossary terms and classifying the type of data. A well-implemented data catalog aids your organization with discovery of existing data assets. It is quite common for different people across different departments to not be aware of all of the data assets that exist across the organization. And the data catalog should be acting as that window to what data assets are being held across the entire organization. Most good data catalogs will also help you understand what the lineage of your data asset is. Imagine your database developers want to change the data type of a field in a database. The lineage in the data catalog will assist with identifying all the assets that are dependent on that, thereby being able to assess the impact that the change may have. Also, imagine a business user wants to understand where the report they are using gets its data from. Lineage will allow them to see this. This is commonly referred to as impact analysis. Data catalogs often also present quality metrics about the data back to the consumers, which helps provide a level of comfort about the data they are using. So what is Azure Purview? Azure Purview is a unified data governance service that helps you manage and govern your on-premises, multi-cloud, and software as a service data. Easily create a holistic, up-to-date map of your data landscape with automated data discovery, sensitive data classification, and end-to-end data lineage. With Purview Platform, you can automate scanning and classification of multi-cloud, software as a service, on-prem and on-prem data. There are 25 out-of-the-box connectors and file formats supported. You can modernize homegrown catalogs built on open source technology with Purview using Apache Atlas APIs supported out of the box. You can get catalog features, the C0 tier, for free included with Purview Platform. This allows you to search and browse, which allows you to empower business and technical data analysts via catalog to find and interpret data, and it powers data scientists and engineers with business context to drive BI, analytics, AI, and ML initiatives. It also allows you to automate metadata and lineage extraction, which allows you to enrich the business value of data with technical, business, and semantic metadata. You can scale understanding of data with automated, fully managed serverless metadata management capability. And you can leverage support of Apache Atlas's open source lineage APIs to push lineage information into the Purview data map if required. And finally, you can analyze impact of changes to data and understand dependencies visually. The C1 tier, the Azure Purview catalog, includes the following in addition to the free features included that have been previously mentioned. Business Glossary, which allows you to deliver a curated and consistent understanding of business terms and definitions. Imports existing glossary terms from existing data dictionaries easily, and also add the ability to define custom attributes for glossary terms and create templates for different domains like finance, sales, etc. It also enables lineage views. This ensures data provenance with a visual representation of owners, sources, transformation, and lifecycle. Built-in integrations with solutions to automatically extract lineage such as Azure Synapse Analytics, Azure Data Factory, and Azure Data Share, etc. Data Insights D1 tier provides a bird's-eye view of your data landscape, intended to help users such as chief data officers quickly understand their data estate at large and gain key insights such as where sensitive data resides. It includes catalog insights. These consist of asset insights, which allows you to quickly see where all your data resides across a range of data sources. Scan insights, that is insights on success, failures, cancellations of scans over a period. Glossary insights, which allows you to quickly understand changes made to the glossary over time and assess how much coverage glossary has over your data map. And sensitive data insights, which allows you to simplify compliance risk assessment across all your operational and transactional data sources and assess risk and derive audit trails of data qualified by sensitivity and business relevance. Purview Studio is a single, centralized place that provides a unified experience for data producers, data consumers, data and security officers. This is your interface to all things Azure Purview. Purview Studio is divided into activity hubs, which you can see down the left side here. These organize the tasks needed for managing data governance activities. These are Home, Sources, Glossary, Insights, and Manage, which we'll discuss in detail in the following slides. Purview Studio also allows ease of access to get updates, to switch accounts, and to get notifications and to provide feedback. When you select the Home Activity Hub, you see the home page. The home page is the starting point for the activities with key links to tasks, artifacts, and documentation based on user role. As you can see, there are catalog metrics, a search bar, tiles for key activities, recently accessed items, and some links to documentation. Sources is where you map your data to manage and enrich metadata map of operational and transactional data, no matter where it lives. Today, Purview comes with a host of sources that it can scan out of the box, and you can be sure that more out-of-the-box scanners are on the way. With Purview, you enjoy the following benefits: automated scanning of on-prem multi-cloud software as a service data. You can leverage turnkey integrations with Power BI, SQL on-premise, Azure or managed instance, and key Azure data services such as Azure Synapse, Cosmos DB, and ADLS. You can manage metadata and scale understanding of data with automated, fully managed serverless metadata management capability. and leverage Apache Atlas Open APIs to programmatically push metadata and lineage from a wide range of open source data systems. This means that if Purview does not come with a source out of the box, you are not precluded from using that source in Purview. Simply build your own custom integration. Using the Register button, you can automate the extraction from multi-cloud data sources including Azure and Amazon AWS. You can extract metadata and lineage from SQL Server on-premise, SAP S/4HANA, Teradata, and more. You can modernize homegrown catalogs built on open source technology with Purview using Apache Atlas APIs supported out of the box. And you can leverage open APIs to programmatically push metadata and lineage from a wide range of open source data systems. Once you have successfully registered sources, you can set up scans to enrich business value of data with technical, business, and semantic metadata. Depending on the source type, you can scope your scan to select the entire storage account or few containers, even down to specific files if that is your wish. You can select file types for scanning as well as define custom file types, which is very useful if you happen to have an ad hoc bespoke file type that your organization uses. You can specify business value with terms, sensitivity, compliance, industry, and company-defined classifiers. There are 100 plus built-in classifiers shared between Microsoft 365 and Purview. You can define your own custom classifiers and Microsoft Information Protection sensitivity labels. You have fine-grained control over scheduled scans, or even just scan once off. Keep in mind that one of the cost components of Purview is scans. You pay for the compute resources used while scanning, so you do want to be pragmatic about how often you scan data sources that maybe don't change very rapidly. Searching in browsing is where you discover your data based on relevance using signals derived from scanning, classification, and business context. Once you've done a search, you view the results of your search sorted either by relevance or by name. You can then further filter your results by glossary terms, classifications, or by the contact that has been allocated to that asset, amongst others. When looking at an individual asset, you can discover operational, semantic, and business information about that asset. The three areas are highlighted here. Here we can view the schema of a data asset, discover technical, semantic, and business information about a specific data set. Authorized users can also edit the classifications, glossary terms, and descriptions here. The lineage view allows you to trace lineage of assets across the data estate. The benefits of this are you can ensure data provenance with a visual representation of owners, sources, transformation, and lifecycle. You can leverage support of Apache Atlas's open source lineage APIs and built-in integrations with solutions such as Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Share, and Power BI. You can analyze the impact of changes to data and understand dependencies visually. And you can perform root cause analysis of failures by inspecting dependencies upstream and determine downstream impact. In the context section, you can identify experts and owners of the data assets. Again, people that have the permission to do so can also use this area to update the experts and owners of these assets. In the related section, you can browse assets by hierarchy. This works for unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data. Quite often, this is a valuable resource for users to discover other assets that belong to the same data pipelines or storage locations. The Business Glossary allows you to create a consistent and curated understanding of business terms and definitions. You can create new terms which can be tagged onto assets to allow for better discoverability. This helps with search and also being able to identify all assets that have been associated with a term. Any existing glossaries you may have in the organization can be imported in bulk. Your organization can also manage different templates for terms. Here you can create new glossary terms to allow for business-specific vocabulary to be applied to your data assets. You can understand business context associated with data in the organization by being able to view the assets associated with a particular term. You can bulk import business terms from existing dictionaries, thereby saving your organization a lot of time if such dictionaries already exist. You have the flexibility to define business terms per business domain, which helps you in situations where some departments want more than others. Insights are intended to help users, such as chief data officers, quickly understand their data estate at large and gain key insights such as where sensitive data resides. Use asset insights to see where all data resides across a range of data sources. Scan insights allow you to track successful, failed, and cancelled scans over a period. Glossary insights to understand changes made to business terms and how much coverage glossary has over your data map. Sensitive data insights allow you to simplify compliance risk assessment across operational and transactional data sources. Assess risk and derive audit trails of data qualified by sensitive and business relevance. Finally, we have the Management Center, which provides the ability to manage account information, scan rule sets, custom classifiers, integration runtimes, and external connections. Integration runtimes are the compute infrastructure used by scanners to provide automated data scanning, lineage, and classification capabilities across different network environments, including on-prem environments. With custom classification rules, you can define your own data pattern along with thresholds to reduce false positives. Now we will switch to do a live demo, and we will also discuss pricing and licensing costs of Azure Purview. So here I have flicked across to our demo account. As you can see, I'm in Azure Purview Studio, and as mentioned, we have the activity hubs down the side, search bars, various links to documentation and recently accessed items. Something else that I should call out at this point is this very handy release notes updates feature that is available, and as you can see, this shows you very quickly what is new and what has come out recently within Azure Purview. Very, very nice feature. Okay, so to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to search for addresses. As you can see, I used the address search word, and it's brought up everything that has the word address in it or is associated with the address glossary term which I've created. So, as mentioned before, you can further narrow down your search by using asset type, classification, contact, labels, had anything been labeled, or glossary terms. This is pretty useful if there's something more specific that you're looking for. In this case, I'm going to select this dim address table that's in an Azure dedicated pool. Now what you'll notice when I click on this table is it shows us the hierarchy, so which server it belongs to, which database, which schema, and then the table. And it also summarizes what classifications were done automatically on this data when it was scanned. We have the properties page, which shows us various properties, and this page would obviously have different information depending on the type of asset you were looking at. So a file sitting in blob storage versus a table in SQL are going to have different properties. We go over to the schema tab, and this is where you can see that what it has picked up during the scan. We've got all the columns, the data types, and classifications that it happened to pick up automatically based on the built-in classification rules. But at this point, if you are a data steward who has been given permission to do so, you can edit this. And that allows you to either, if a classification was in error in your opinion, you can remove it, or you can add additional classifications. So it's important to note that you can have multiple classifications per column. You can also have multiple glossary terms. In this case, I only have one glossary term existing in our demo account, so it is only showing the one. But you could do exactly the same with glossary terms as you can with classifications, where you can have multiple. And also the data steward can go and provide extended descriptions for the columns at this point. We'll go to the lineage view for this table. And as you can see, we're getting quite a lot of information here. We're seeing that originally we got data from an Azure SQL table in another database. This is a data factory copy activity that has copied the data from that table into a CSV file in Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Then another data factory data flow activity then populated this table in, as I said, the SQL dedicated pool table. And then the lineage even goes further to show us that this table was then used further in populating another table. So it means that this data flow activity in Azure Data Factory actually queried this table in order to finally populate another table. So we can see the lineage all the way across from how this table was involved in both downstream and upstream. When you go to the contacts tab, this is where you can see the contacts, experts and owners. And at this point, you can, if you have the permission to do so, you can edit this. And as you can see, you can have multiple experts, multiple owners. So in this case, we hadn't assigned an owner yet. So I will do so now. And then you can see how that's updated. And if you go to the related tab, this is where you can see various relationships that it has picked up. In this case, what it's showing us is that in the same schema, we have two other tables that are also then considered to be related to this dim address table. And from here, we could, for instance, select one of the other tables and jump, and it will automatically jump to the same tab on that asset. But we can go and see that we have all the same information for this one. And this one, you can actually see a much more involved lineage where it's showing how this fact customer address table got populated. If I jump to our scans section, this is where we've set up scans. So in our environment, we have the 4 different scans. If I jump into one of these as an example, Power BI, we can see that we have one scan registered. I'll just wait for it to load the information about this. There we go. So I'll click in on this scan so we can have a look at what you see when you go there. And you can see here's all the previous scans that have happened on this. So actual executions of the scan, and you can see what was cancelled, completed, and obviously if something failed, that will show here as well. If I edit the scan, you can see that, for instance, with Power BI, you can include or exclude personal workspaces. And you can also select the authentication method. In the case of Power BI, there is only one, but other sources will allow alternative authentication mechanisms. Okay, so I'll hop over to Glossary and give you a quick view of this. Yeah, you can see that I've created one glossary item term called address. But this is where you manage term templates. So if we look at that out of the box, it comes with system templates. The system template, which shows you what are all the fields that you can do with that. But you can also create a new term template, a custom one, and actually define exactly what your organization needs. And you can have multiple custom ones, which allows different departments or business units to have different levels of granularity around their glossary terms if that's what they want. When you create a new term, you select the template. In this case, I still only have the default. And then you get to specify various bits of information about the term, the name, the definition, parents, so you can have hierarchical terms, and you can even add acronyms for the terms, which is very useful if your organization or external organizations use different words to refer to the same thing. You can add resources, which is, for instance, links to different resources. So maybe there's a white paper defining this that actually defines this term. You can go and add those sort of things. You can have related sort of synonyms and related terms, which is really great, and then assign contacts who can be contacted if there are questions around this particular term. So we'll have a look at the one that I've already created. So yeah, you can see the information about that term, but also interestingly enough, you can see what it provides a hyperlink to what assets have already been associated with that term. And you can click that and it'll actually take you to the search, back to the search, where it's automatically drilled down to that particular glossary term. So that's just a nice shortcut. Looking at insights, unfortunately our demo environment does not have a lot going on. So the insights are not very insightful, so to speak. But you can imagine what you would see if you had quite a vibrant, big data catalog going on. And yeah, you can select the different types of insights you're interested in having a look at. Finally, we'll switch over to the management section and just show you, without going into any detail in this, this is just where you set up different scan rule sets. There's a whole bunch of system ones, but this is where you would create your custom rule sets. You can also view integration runtimes. I have no need for those in this environment, but you can also get links to Azure Monitor to get metrics and operational alerts, classifications, again a whole bunch of out-of-the-box system classifications, but yeah, this is where you would create a custom classification, and then set up your classification rules. So as an example, if I was to create a new one, you give it a name and description. You select the classification, which has already been defined. In this case, I haven't yet, so I'll just take anything. But as you can see, you can choose whether you're going to use a regular expression or a dictionary. I'll just choose regular expression in this case. And you can see that there's various ways you can upload files that predefine your patterns, or you can specify a data pattern or a column pattern. And in the case of a data pattern, you get to set how strictly or how closely it must match. So there's a lot of control that you can get over these classification rules. Then there's also pattern rules and your data factories. So you actually register your data factories with Azure Purview, and that's how it gets information from Data Factory. And exactly the same with Azure Data Share, which we don't currently have. And setting up of access controls and credentials. Okay, now that I've given you a brief overview of the Azure Purview Studio, I do want to talk about documentation and licensing. Now, within Azure Purview Studio, on the home page, you will find a link to the documentation over here. That opens this page. And I must say that of all the Microsoft products that I've worked with over many decades, I've never seen such great documentation for a version 1 of a product before. The documentation that they have provided is world-class, and the first time I implemented Azure Purview with no prior knowledge of the product, I was able to work through connecting up all my data sources within a couple of hours. And that's because of the excellent documentation and step-by-step guidance that they give you on how to set up your Azure resources so that Purview has permission to get the metadata from there that it needs to get. So I have to take my hat off to Microsoft for their documentation around Purview. It is truly world-class. However, the one area that I'm not overly impressed with is the pricing page for Azure Purview. So from here, you can see, okay, there's the price for the Azure Purview data map. And they're pretty clear about that. So I'll just pause here and talk about the current size options that you have when you create Purview in your Azure environment. So as we stand today, the options that you've got are 4 capacity units or 16 capacity units. And that's it. You have 2 choices. I am very hopeful that we will get more control over this in future, but we'll have to wait and see what Microsoft decides to do about that. So with that in mind, if you jump back here and you see this price of 34.2 cents per 1 capacity unit hour, that effectively means that for every hour that your Purview is active, you're going to pay this times 4 as an absolute minimum, and that's if you've chosen 4 capacity units. You can imagine that's 4 times that if you have selected 16 capacity units. So as a very rough calculation, depending on the month and how many days are in that month, you're looking at approximately $1,000 a month for just having the Purview data map active. And it is important to note at this point that as we stand today, Purview's data map cannot be switched off. So this is not something that you can switch off as and when you want to. So once you stand up your Purview account, you start paying this price from day one. And as we stand today, as I mentioned, you cannot switch it off. So the only way to actually stop paying would be to completely delete your Purview account, which is something else that I hope they address in future and allow customers to switch it off when it's not in use. My biggest issue with this pricing page is a lot of things that they haven't given us future information about. So metadata store, free in preview, but it's not saying what that cost will be once preview is over. And the same for some of these scanning sources. And again, same for the C1 tier, free in preview, and D0. I think this is not a great experience for a customer who is trying to understand whether Azure Purview is applicable for them. If if I was actually paying for Purview in a production environment, I would not be willing to adopt the technology while it's in preview, and I don't know what my future costs are going to be. So I'm hoping this is something that is addressed soon. Right. Okay, so with that, I will go back to my slides. You may ask yourself why Purview is a big deal given that Power BI can already show you lineage. Why this is important is that Power BI's lineage stops at the edge of where Power BI connects to. If, for example, this is a data warehouse, you won't see where the data in the data warehouse came from. Purview implemented correctly will provide this end-to-end lineage. The lineage view in Power BI also only shows lineage between objects in the same workspace and does not show cross-workspace dependencies. In addition, you get the ability for users to see what assets are present in workspaces that they are not currently members of. This can prevent duplication of effort and greatly assist with discoverability. You also get much better information about your data assets thanks to the curation capabilities in Purview. So, if you want to know more about Purview, you can go to that URL that's on screen currently. This is a great place to start and get to know all about Purview. As previously mentioned, the excellent documentation that's available for Purview today. So with that, I want to thank you for attending my session covering Azure Purview. I hope that you found this session to be valuable and that you appreciate the immense value that this technology can offer your enterprises. I also want to give a special thanks to Microsoft for supporting DPS. So thank you. There are 3 ways to win prizes, as you can see up on screen. So please follow those different ways to get yourself into draws. And I will now be available for live Q&A. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Goodbye.